Welcome back, everyone. Our next guest is a lawyer, educator, and gay rights activist who's been fighting the criminalization of same-sex relations in the Caribbean for over 15 years.
And he's here to discuss these human rights violations and how they impact all of us. Maurice Tomlinson, welcome to The Social. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about your work, Maurice. So you are challenging anti-LGBTQ plus laws across the Caribbean, but a lot of your work has really focused in on the country of Jamaica, which is where you were born as well. Can you give us a sense of what life is like there day to day for example, a gay Jamaican man?
So it really depends on what your access to resources are. So overall, the law criminalizes any form of same-sex relationship between men, because when the law was written in 1864, female intimacy did not exist as a thing. And so even holding hands in the privacy of your bedroom can get you up to 10 years imprisonment at hard labor. And in 2012, we updated the law and entrenched it in our constitution. And now, once you get out of prison, you must pay a 9,000 Canadian dollar fine because you must be registered as a sex offender. And if you don't have that pass, and you also face 1 year in prison for not having that pass. So that's the law. And if you don't have the resources to live independently and not have to depend on anybody to give you a job or that sort of thing, because there's no protection in our Constitution for being evicted from your homes, for being fired, from being denied health services. There's no protection. The Constitution deliberately excludes sexual orientation as a ground for non-discrimination.
I mean, it's so shocking. Yeah. So shocking.
And some countries in the Caribbean seem slower to adapt when it comes to anti-gay legislation. So what do you attribute that to?
So as a person of faith, unfortunately, I have to admit that it has to do with religion. Research we have conducted has found that the level of homophobia in Jamaica has been driven by a virulent form of evangelical homophobia from the global north, which was imposed on Jamaica about the time of the late 70s, early 80s, when, America saw the sea change. Because at one point, Jamaica and New York were at the same stage in terms of LGBT rights. But then when their culture war started to be lost, as you're seeing now in Florida, et cetera, the same kind of poison started to be exported to Jamaica. And that's when we started turning on LGBT people. The law that was just on the books started being used to blackmail people, to evict them from their homes, et cetera, because everybody feared AIDS, and they equated HIV and LGBT people through the activism of the evangelical churches.
Wow. Well, next month, you're going to be tackling two major cases to try and overturn the anti-sodomy law in Jamaica. The reality is, though, that 80% of Jamaicans still identify as homophobic.
Yeah.
So you're fighting an uphill battle. So when you try to overturn these laws, how is that possibly going to change these attitudes?
And it's like a chicken or egg situation, and how I describe it is visibility is liberty. So the only way we can get people to start accepting LGBT people is for them to know them. People fear who they don't know. And until we can be on television, because we can't do that in Jamaica, it's illegal, until we can start showing ads calling for respect for the rights of gays, until we can deliberately be out safely, then we won't be able to reduce the level of homophobia. And the laws prevent that because it's illegal to be gay.
I mean, it's just striking me, just like how we do have to be vigilant, because you think that this can't come, but the tides can change so quickly. You now live in Kingston, Ontario, but you grew up and lived a lot of your life in Jamaica, and you've been doing this work for so many years. What kinds of resistance have you faced for your work?
So the most harrowing thing was when I reported my death threats that I've gotten for this work to the police, they basically told me that they hate gays and we make them sick. And I was chased out of the police station. And when I reported the issue to the boss of the police officer, I was told by the boss that, well, these attitudes are unfortunate, but they won't change until the laws change. So I've received death threats. Many people have been evicted from their homes. I am fortunate because I have resources and I could leave and come to Canada. Many people can't, and that's why this work is so important. We have to change the situation on the ground so not everybody can leave.
Now, you say that one of the most common misconceptions about anti-sodomy laws is that they only affect LGBTQ plus people. Can you expand on that?
The reality is that 60% of men who have sex with men in Jamaica also have sex with women because they have to mask or cure their homosexuality by having relationships with women. And unfortunately, many of these men don't use condoms because that would out them. So they have unprotected sex with other men or, others, and this causes the HIV virus to spread between the populations and exposes women and children. And this destroys families. So it's a misconception that the law is only about gay men. It affects the entire society.
Wow. So we are right now talking about gay rights in the Caribbean, but you say that the connection can also be made here in Canada. So connect these two places for us.
So the reality is that many Canadians go to the Caribbean and they don't think about how they're exposing themselves or their friends or their families to homophobia. Because if you were to meet in an accident, for example, as a gay person or your family is gay, your partner couldn't make decisions for you. They'd be a legal stranger. And also, Canadians should be concerned about equality. They do. And the most important thing I want to emphasize is that the homophobia doesn't stay there. It comes here because the largest population of Jamaicans outside of Jamaica is in Toronto. And we bring our baggage with us.
Yeah. I mean, you say that one of the most effective things we can all do, because as you're saying this, I'm like, are we saying, don't go to Jamaica? Are we saying, what are the decisions we can make? But you actually say that you want people to engage in soft diplomacy. What do you mean by that?
When you go to the Caribbean, if you do go, and you engage with your bus drivers and your taxi driver, your restaurants, whoever, explain to them the relationship you have with LGBT people. We're not scary, we're not demons, we're not after your kids. This is what is important, because if you preach at people, you'll turn them off. But if you try to explain to them that we're not freaks, we're humans, it might help to break down the monolith of hate that was built up over generations.
Maurice, I think I speak for all of us here and all of us in the audience. Thank you so much for the work that you do, and thank you so much for being here today. It's incredible. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. We've got lots more discussion and debates on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. Don't forget to click like and subscribe.